based on developing a reconfigurable and self-structuring system that is capable of mobility and interaction for the purpose of creating dynamic and adaptive ecologies. By looking at a colony of ants, we tried to understand their collective behavior and their capacity for collective collaboration. We found it particularly interesting how they could transform into becoming an infrastructure for themselves and emerge as a single entity for accomplishing complex tasks. Moving on, our research is influenced by the works of Carl Sims' Evolutionary Creatures that demonstrate the usefulness of developing a novel system, employing learning strategies and evolving mechanisms, and simulating behaviors virtually to achieve specific goals. We looked at NASA's TET robotics to help us in the development of a robust model capable of mobility to overcome obstacles and difficult terrain. Lastly, the work of Hotlipson's cube served as an ideal example for understanding self-assembly and self-structuring. Our initial research developed around investigating systems that are capable of storing energy and simultaneously transforming their geometry. For this purpose, we built and explored a series of study models that were a combination of soft nodes and rigid connecting members and vice versa. Through their deformation, they could adapt and a single unit could connect to other units. So at the first iteration at the prototypical level, it consisted of a tetrahedral geometry which was composed of pneumatic connecting members that could be actuated in a sequence to produce mobility and also other behaviors, along with connecting to other units through their nodes to form complex body plans.
We are trying to build a simulation system for these robots to be controlled by a learning system. We are trying to make the system adaptive and these robots autonomous. So, and the most crucial part for the autonomy is learning. And this is a genetic algorithm that tries to calculate an actuation sequence for these units. And you are seeing a simulation that runs to calculate the maximum distance can be achieved by minimum actuation for a body. We started to test multiple scales of bodies, and we realized that as the body became more and more complex, the computation time became longer and longer. We started looking at a knowledge distribution system in order to distribute this computation process through a larger crowd, and started looking at interaction systems and basic rules and how these simple interactions could achieve a complex network formation. Besides the network formations, we also started looking at the deformation of these units, and we looked at how these relations could start to generate spatial formations and structural formations. Here you see the growth strategy applied based on different tasks. Sorry, just a second. Okay.
From the initial studies, we were able to generate these stick models. That helped us to analyze an actuation pattern in the tetrahedron.
Yes.
Now it works. Okay. So, moving on to the transition, the deformation strategies that we learned from the tetrahedron were used to create a chain link system that is capable of transformation, creating different states. Also, it is also able to have a stronger joint strategy, making it efficient and stable at different geometrical configurations. So the system the unit created by us had three major states of mobility and self-structuring. The closed state of mobility and self-structuring, the flat state of self-structuring, and the open state of both mobility and self-structuring. After understanding the unit at a single level, we started evaluating multiple unit configuration with the same unit of transformations. On a prototypical point of view, the experiment started with first achieving mobility and transformation. So initially the transformation state, we started with the transformation state that is going from the flat state to a closed state. This was achieved by actuating the link pistons that are in the prototype, where that closes one by one, first creating the flat state, and after creating the flat state, it actuates the surface to create a more accurate connection module that is created by an electromagnetic piston and a rod, which makes the fifth hinge work. When we talk about closed state, it's the best for creating mobility because of its rolling motion. This is created by continuously transforming, changing the surface pattern, creating a disturbance in the center of gravity and making it roll, which can be quite helpful in not only flat terrains, but in rough terrains as well. When we talk about the open state has two main functions, the straight movement and the turning movement. So the main actuation is created by the first segment anchoring, the three segments extending, and the other segment anchoring, and vice versa, in both the systems. In the straight system, both the surface pistons are getting actuated. In the turning system, only one side of the pistons are getting actuated. So in the surface system, in the straight system also, you have an open flange and a closed flange. So the opportunity the open flange gives you is, it's more stable, and if it's a smooth surface, it moves through it very nicely. When you close the flanges, it gives you a better anchorage at the point, which helps you in an aspect of climbing terrains, which have a bit of altitude, like an angle. The twisting motion that we were able to evaluate helped us to achieve that turn that you were looking for. Continuous actuation of these anchor, extension, and anchor helps us to create the turn. After looking at the single prototype, we looked at multiple of them able to climb each other in order for transformation, like self-structuring to happen. This is one of the examples that we were able to achieve, one bot climbing the other. Okay, go back. The system that we are using right now is a pneumatic system, which is divided into 5 segments, equally distributing the pressures in all 5 segments, and with the center segment being the brain of the system. Hence, capable of having a system which does not depend upon any external source and has a sensing capability.
Capacity to have multiple states provide a large variety for scenarios of intercommunication between states. Thus, every unit achieve possibility to different behaviors within a population with the same state or collaboration with the other ones. We started research of state intercommunication with the closed state. Its main advantage are mobility and possibility to several breaking strategies. Based on facial connection, we can achieve different growing patterns depending on direction of growth. We started researching linear growth to investigate potential configuration that can be achieved by this state. And since unit has a possibility to transform, we start implementing this transformation in order to figure out how it can influence geometrical flexibility of the structure. And these explorations gives us a base for communication models later on. So here you can see how implementation of different rule sets for growth can bring us different kind of geometries. Also, we started research a curve solver as an opportunity to achieve different types of connectivity and to create some three-dimensional structures. we start to just making some lines, and you can see here we have a rule set to have some particular number of units that are packing differently and guiding by these lines. However, just growth cannot provide wholesome geometry, and at this point we start developing our we start developing an open state that is crucial since it has a capacity to become an infrastructure for other states and can provide more efficient passes for other units to migrate from one place into another. Another packing strategy that can be achieved by implementation of flat states. The main advantage is interlocking between units that can help to create two-dimensional surfaces. And since this state has a certain capacity to mobility and certain transformational range, it can provide some mobility. And this is useful for different kind of scenarios. Here you can see for climbing ones, you can climb both surface by attaching with different sides. Also, by this state we can achieve the two-dimensional growth by implementation of interlocked passive units and active flat units.
We started to take these rule sets and started to build a system that can solve different kind of connections that can achieve a goal. Here is a negotiation system where these individual units try to pass from one state to other in order to solve their path and in order to negotiate and reform a structure. These kind of adaptive solving strategies can help us solve a complex problem which has a single goal with multiple units. So at right, you are seeing a large amount of human units solving the same problem as the other ones. As the adaptive reconfiguration also helps us change the goals and make these units readapt and renegotiate their formations. So here we are seeing these units changing the complete structure based in sequences based on their connectivity in cycles. So to combine these three different states, we started to create a simulation that builds a three-dimensional communication strategy. And we took individual elements and research that we made before. We started with the communication strategies and build a building system. Then we built a growing large-scale negotiation solver and a network system, which defines the main rule sets of the context. And we started building the basic relations of these units and how they are going to negotiate and form vertical and horizontal structures. Here you are seeing them combining to each other in order to create a column, and they are connecting with the flat packing strategies, and they are bridging with the open strategies. Our communication model in a three-dimensional scale is based on units talking to each other. And they ask each other what to do next, and they communicate inside the clusters in order to find out what they need to do, where they need to go next. So the whole cluster negotiates the next position of the unit that should go. Here you are seeing individual types, so type 1, type 2, and type 3, that has their actuation patterns implemented in their knowledge. When we start to combine these knowledges, we start to see emerging structures, and we start to see different communication clusters, which enables these units to transform themselves from one point to another. we took our adaptive reconfiguration principles and implemented into the system so that these growth strategies can renegotiate their configuration and create porous and unporous structures in different densities. And as our the growth strategy is based on communication and based on deployment of these agents, their start position and their construction planes are playing a crucial role for us. So we started cataloging them in order to see what kind of spaces we can achieve with them. So by combining these elements, we are proposing an adaptive communication system for multi-state modular robotics. Thank you.
These are the earlier deformation. So these are earlier deformation model studies of actuation patterns, and we have some stick models which helps us to understand how the elasticity and the actuation works in that. This is a example model that we created. These are different states of aggregation and self-structuring. Like this is a flat state, this is an open state aggregation, this is a flat, this is an open state again. And here we are trying to create a hybrid model between the closed and an open state, how the spaces from the column is transferred to the surface and how they are negated based on that. On the prototypical point of view, we have two prototypes which were used to study the actuation patterns created in those videos. And then we created a self-stable system which does not require any output source of pressure or power. So this is a stable system on its own. And we finish with our stick models that show certain states of self-structuring as well.